I have two major weaknesses in life. The first weakness is that I'm very bad at establishing protocol, extremely bad. And the second one, even if I'm good at establishing protocol, everybody in this hall is a VIP. So I don't want to offend anyone. That's why I crave your indulgence and I plead for your forgiveness. Having said that, I recognize the presence of His Excellency, the Governor of Gombe State. I'm choosing my words so that I don't call him Executive Governor. Esteemed guests here seated, stakeholders in this summit, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank the Prof, the SSG, who gave a welcome address. I tried to monitor his presentation when he was introducing me and my brother, the executive chairman of ICPC. So I'm free to call him, to put executive in before his own chairman. So there is no offense in that. I was somewhere in an occasion, I think outside the country, and somebody's name was mispronounced. And the man said, in his place, when you mispronounce his name, somebody's name, you are going to be sanctioned and fined. So when I came back, I was sharing with someone, and suddenly the person told me that even in my own place, where I came from in Ekiti State, that when you mispronounce or misspell somebody's name, you will also be sanctioned. So I asked, what kind of sanction is that? He said, when you mispronounce first time, you will be fined a chicken. When you mispronounce the second time, you will be fined a goat. When you mispronounce the third time, you will be fined a cow. So I was monitoring the SSG when he was pronouncing my name. He was careful, he didn't pronounce it so many times. But the only time he pronounced it, he didn't get it well. So I'm leaving Gombe with one chicken. When His Excellency came up and he was presenting his address, he was also careful. He only pronounced my name once. Subsequently, he was using chairman. So I was thinking maybe he knew about the sanctions in my place and he wanted to avoid it. But I'm thinking that we have to go back to Abuja with so much gift. So I scrutinized his paper and I discovered that my surname was actually misspelled, miswritten. There was a portion, instead of writing E, they put O. So, Your Excellency, I'm fining you now. You only mispronounced it once, but instead of fining you, including the trailer that will take you to Abuja. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to stand in your midst today to present this paper on a topic that is very dear to my heart: combative corruption in local governance, strengthening accountability and financial integrity. The topic reflects an appreciation of the importance of the fight against corruption to the realization of our collective aspiration for a local government system that is in tune with the yearnings and aspirations of grassroots population. I'd like to thank Your Excellency for the demonstration of accountability, transparency, commitment to good governance from the clip we have just seen now. I have traveled to so many states, and as I'm talking to you, we are investigating the finances of so many states. But I make bold to say, if most governors are like you, I will have less work to do. From your Miaga resources, no major natural resources here, if you have been able to achieve all these. If there is opportunity for third term, I would have recommended you for one. But unfortunately, you are in your second term. I will not recommend you for the third term because that is going to be unconstitutional. And I don't want to violate the law. But be rest assured, if you continue like this, until you are true, I won't have cause to knock on your door. You will leave government house and you will enjoy your life. You won't receive any invitation from us. So I thank you for demonstrating good governance. Please keep it up. I would like to thank the organizers also of this summit, inviting me to share my thoughts with you in this all-important conversation aimed at deepening good governance practice at the third tier of government. Now, what is the essence of local government? Why do we have local government? We have really not understood the criticality of the local government in the Nigerian federal structure. As the third tier of government, they exist to fill gaps which the national and state government put together may not be able to fill. There is no gainsaying the fact that more of the nation's over 200 million population live in the council areas, the local government grassroots areas. The poorest of the poor who need urgent intervention to escape the poverty trap life in the council areas, where governance is gotten right at this level. Local government councils should ideally catalyze sustainable economic and social development across the length and breadth of our country. As envisioned by the guidelines for local government reforms in Nigeria, the local councils are established by law to exercise specific powers within defined areas. These powers give the councils substantial control over local affairs, as well as institutional and financial powers to initiate and direct the provision of services, to determine and implement projects, and to complement the activities of the state and federal governments in their areas. To deliver on this mandate, the Constitution accords them a share of the federation account, which I think is about 20%. Other sources of funding available to the local governments, they come from taxes, rates, licenses, fines, fees, rents, other commercial undertakings, among others. Corruption in local governance and the consequence. Like other tiers of government, the cancer of corruption has afflicted local government administration in Nigeria. When I talk about corruption, I assume that we are all familiar with the manifestation of unhealthy behavior in the public sector. But for the purpose of this discourse, let us rely on the simplistic definition offered by the World Bank, which defines corruption as the abuse of public office for personal gain. Abuse of public office for personal gain. Corruption entails deviation from acceptable norms, acceptable conduct by public officers in pursuit of private interest at the expense of public good. Such conduct manifests in various ways. For example, bribe taking to deliver services which they are ordinarily obligated to offer to members of the public. Number two, stealing of public resources through contract and procurement fraud. Outright embezzlement of resources through brazen sharing of public funds and several other shenanigans. Since the reform of local government administration with the creation of 774 council areas in Nigeria, statutory allocations to the council run into trillions of naira. That is outside other sources of funding available to the councils. Yet the impact of these resources are not felt by the people living in these areas. Councils, instead of becoming catalysts of growth, have become caricatures existing only
in name. The effects of corruption in our local government system are all too glaring to miss. Children are unable to attend schools because their parents cannot afford this cost of education. Roads in terrible state of dilapidation. His Excellency was explaining to me, when you are moving from a particular village to the local government secretariat, you have to go and pass through other local governments, about 2 or 3 or 5, before you get to your secretariat. He said because of good governance, now from the village to the local government secretariat, in 30 minutes you will get there. I think that's a good place where to give a round of applause to his executive governor, to the governor. Now, the effects of corruption in our local government are all too glaring for us to see. Roads in terrible state of dilapidation because resources meant for their reconstruction have been cornered by few greedy individuals. Ill-equipped hospitals that cannot rise to the challenge of modern healthcare delivery, etc. It seems that the councils exist only for the payment of salaries of council staff and primary school teachers. Once that is done, no one can account for where the remainder of the resources go. But it is common knowledge that most council chairmen do not live within their council areas. They saunter into their council secretariat once every month to share the allocation from the federation account. And once they are done, they return to their palatial abodes, mostly in their state capitals. I want to believe this does not operate in Gombe State, but generally, that is our perception. Not only perception, that is the reality, what we have seen across so many local governments in Nigeria. Now, the renewed hope for transformation. The poverty of the councils and their failure to fulfill obligations to communities has over time raised serious questions around their fiscal viability. Just as their leadership frequently shift the blame for ineffectiveness to the overbearing influence of state governors, evident in their hijack of local government resources through the state local government joint allocation committee, joint accounts and allocation committee, JAC. Providentially, this obstacle appeared to have been lifted by the landmark decision of the Supreme Court, which you are all familiar with, which mandated direct payment of local government statutory allocations from the federation account. Now, this is expected to dramatically improve the funding situation of the councils and empower them to deliver on their mandate. But this expectation might be misplaced given the infidelity of the councils in matters of financial management. The resources that accrue to them over the years have not been properly managed. Councils have become automatic teller ATMs for avaricious public officers who feed on the ignorance or lethargy of the rural population to mine their collective wealth for private gain. This disposition is unlikely to change with the Supreme Court decision, except there is a conscious, a deliberate decision to embrace a new ethos of accountability and financial integrity. Now, I'm happy to hear that even before the judgment of Supreme Court, His Excellency had been practicing financial autonomy for the local governments. Now, with more money coming, it is ordinarily expected of local government chairmen to, on your own, develop your capacity to manage resources, capacity on part of your staff to implement developmental projects. Because even though you may have financial autonomy, you must also remember that you don't have constitutional immunity. So the application of your resources will be strictly monitored, not only by anti-corruption agencies, even by the state government. Because it's going to be to the credit of the state government if he ensures that the resources going to the local government where actually developmental projects are supposed to take root is responsibly and judiciously appropriated and applied and executed. So I'm challenging the local government chairmen You must go and add value to yourself, develop yourself, go for training, go for courses. Sometimes you can't give what you don't have. It is only what you have in you that you can give out. So if somebody does not perform well, the first thing we look at is, do you even have the capacity to occupy that office? Capacity does not mean only that you are elected or you won election. No, winning election does not necessarily mean that you have the capacity. After you have won election and after you have been elected, you add value to yourself. So that at the end of the day, when you are held accountable, you'll be able to justify the responsibility given to you, having been discharged and carried out in a responsible manner. Now, what is the imperative of accountability and financial integrity in local government administration? The potentials of the local government to stimulate transformation in the economic and social fortunes of communities across the country is infinite. The administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu reserves the pundits for erasing the obstacle of state government fiddling with council finances through the landmark case of the Supreme Court. But that is where the hard work begins. We cannot expect a mere pronouncement by court to alter the landscape of the councils if we continue to do business as usual. The structure of accountability at the council as presently constituted does not inspire confidence. Something drastic must be done. And we are saying this because to whom much is given, you also agree with me, much is also expected. A starting point is getting the leadership of the council to be in tune with relevant laws and regulations governing public finance at the local level and their responsibility to ensure compliance. Officials must be familiar with procurement laws. I was happy to hear that Gombe State has procurement laws and the governor has established due process office. Now, I'm going to recommend to the chairman to replicate the same at the local government level. You don't have to necessarily call yourself your own due process, but I'm going to recommend to you that you establish what I may describe as what I call compliance department, or you call it compliance unit, that will help you to ensure compliance with financial laws, procurement, contract and procurement processes, regulatory issues, and also to help you monitor delivery on projects, which we call monitoring and evaluation unit. And so when you have this, that will also help you to ensure that you toe the line and you don't deviate from responsible management of your resources. Officials must be familiar with procurement laws, ensuring that contracts go through the bid process and that they do not exceed their approval limits. So when your compliance office will set certain limits in compliance with the procurement law that the state government has put in place. The approval limit for the chairman, approval limit for all the categories of officers. And also at the political level, the doctrine of separation of powers must be allowed to flourish in the council to allow for checks and balances, both in public expenditure and appointment. The House must be allowed to carry out their legislative functions. We discovered that most local governments don't allow they have their own legislative unit. But most times they don't sit. Most times they don't even work. We see that prevalent in so many local government areas. Now, including the power of appropriation, why funds should only be expended based on appropriation. Without full expression of the autonomy of the branches of government at the local government level, the chairmen of councils will continue to act as sole administrators with concomitant dangers for due process and accountability. So you are not sole administrators, you are local government chairmen. So you are supposed to run your administration in collaboration with other arms of government as established by your local government laws. Accountable leadership at this level of government will be further enhanced if all stakeholders show interest in how the resources of councils are deployed. Community leaders, even traditional rulers who are here present, our fathers, it is part of your duties because you are closer to the people, our royal fathers, to ensure that you monitor the activities of the local government administration within your domain. Civil society also, we are challenging you to do your work, rise up to the occasion. Among others, we must all take greater interest in how the resources of the councils are expended through budget tracking and oversight. Where there is evidence of malfeasance, they also have a responsibility to alert the anti-graft agencies for immediate intervention. Fundamentally, accountability and financial integrity at the council level will not be achievable without a review of the political recruitment process into the councils to ensure that the right persons are elected into leadership positions. Now, what is our role as anti-corruption agencies? After this summit, we're going to liaise with the government, with the state government. Incidentally, I have a zonal office in Gombe. Awarding. That's what we call cost mischarging. That's what we call defective pricing, false statements and claims, phantom vendors. Before you award contract to any company, make sure that you profile the company. Make sure the company exists in law. Make sure it's properly registered. Make sure they have paid all their taxes, they fulfill all regulatory issues. Ensure you do that. That's what we call product substitution, fraudulent purchases, and resale. And there are so many of them, because if you are not careful, if you don't know about these schemes, it will be difficult for you to avoid them. And so, on this note, I want to thank you for listening to me, and I want to wish you all the best in your governance endeavor, and encourage you to always play by the rules, to always do what is right. And I say again, it's only Mr. Governor that has constitutional immunity in the state, and the deputy governor. Local government chairman, you don't have immunity. So we are not going to wait until you finish your tenure for us to ensure accountability and transparency. Thank you very much, and God bless you for listening to me.